Hi, my name is Dr. Anna Baranowski, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Traumatology Institute, which I run from my hometown of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I can honestly say that I love my work. I've met and worked with thousands of trauma survivors and seen them grow, change, and heal. I've also worked with thousands of mental health professionals, teaching them the approaches that we've seen work with survivors and those who care for them. Whether those survivors experienced trauma 20 years ago or 2 days ago, whether they struggle with intrusive memories, nightmares, feelings of panic and fear, or are withdrawing from everything meaningful in their lives, we have proven approaches that help you help others recover from trauma. I feel I've come by this work from a place of deep care for the impact that trauma can have on individuals, families, and communities. My own father experienced shattering, life-altering trauma, loss, and grief. His difficult story started when he was only 12 years old. He watched his own family experience torture and to die under the hands of their abusers. He experienced terrible circumstances and was witness to heinous abuse and human suffering. As a young child, I can sense in my father emotional pain that I couldn't understand or explain. I remember going for long walks with my dad and finally working up the courage to ask him what happened to him, make him so sad. With the innocence of a child, I learned about the terrible things he witnessed and endured, and of course he was reluctant and hesitant to share these stories, wanting to protect me, but I was persistent and truly and deeply had a need to know. What I learned amazed me. My father was a man who experienced the worst sort of tragedy and was somehow able to be kind and loving, a good father and spouse, a good and caring man involved in his family, his community, a man who was able to run his own small business. These stories opened up in me a deep sense of compassion, first for my father, and then for those who experience trauma, and the recognition that after trauma we can work toward healing and recovery. The compassion that was awakened in me has remained with me my entire life. It's also led me in the direction of working with trauma survivors in my career and ultimately teaching others how to assist trauma survivors, their loved ones, and the communities they reach. Flash forward many years, and I'm studying to become a clinical psychologist enrolled in a PhD and meeting with clients. As life would have it, I was referred numerous clients who had experienced some type of traumatic event, very early childhood abuse, sexual assault, motor vehicle accidents, acts of violence, terrorism, and military trauma. I did not know how to work with these individuals to help them get to a truly new place or to guide them from intake to recovery and discharge. In fact, it did not seem that my supervisors at the time had a system that was really working either, and that was really concerning for me. It seemed that at the time of my studies, the field of post-traumatic stress and interventions was really in its infancy. There were no comprehensive training programs to help mental health professionals to learn to help trauma survivors. I wanted to change this and ensure that there was a method that could help professionals work effectively with trauma survivors. I was fortunate to be accepted to work with Dr. Charles Figley, who was instrumental in helping to develop the diagnostic criterion for PTSD years prior. I worked in his psychosocial stress research lab and began to deeply formulate my ideas around comprehensive training for trauma survivors. At the same time, I met Dr. Eric Gentry, and we started to dialogue about developing training programs that would help clinicians, therapists, psychologists, social workers, psychiatrists, and many others who work closely with trauma survivors. And that is exactly what we did. We combined our knowledge, experience, deep felt concern, and passion for great service, training, and care together to create many of the courses available in these training programs today. The work that was developed in these early years laid the foundation for comprehensive programming you can take today that trains you to work effectively with trauma survivors from intake into stabilization or finding comfort and calm, working through trauma, and reconnecting with a meaningful life that we're now offering online in a format that allows mental health professionals, wherever you are, to gain a deep knowledge of what it takes to work with trauma survivors and guide them through the recovery process. When I look back, I see that this has been my life's work and that I remain dedicated to building training opportunities for those who want to work with trauma survivors. Today I was engaged in helping a school deal with a terrible tragedy in the death of one of their students who was simply going for a weekend drive along with friends. Knowing how to provide comfort and respond in a way that can make a difference during these terrible events can make an immense difference between years of emotional pain and struggle or working through trauma toward meaning and recovery. The Clinical Traumatologist Training Program has been offered since 1998, that's the inception of the Traumatology Institute, and is filled with tools that you can use today to transform the work you do with trauma survivors. We've been watching practitioners learn, engage, and grow their skills in trauma care. The program has been developed and enriched over the years, and we've been offering our programs in class and now online and on demand in an e-learning format that you can start right now at your own time and location since 2007. We hope that you'll have the opportunity to work through our programs and find the same success that many of our students have found over the years. Now I want to introduce Maureen, who's our training coordinator and really understands the needs of our students and the back end of our online portal. So Maureen, I know that you hear about people who are signing up every single day for our e-learning programs, and I'm always amazed when I hear about how many students we have and how many countries are represented. Do you know how many countries are represented now?
Yes, we have students from 72 different countries around the world.
Okay. That's pretty exciting. So we're really making an impact with our courses all over the world.
Yes.
And the very interesting thing is that what countries do you know are represented?
We have people from Singapore, Egypt, the Bahamas, Australia, the Middle East. There's people from, of course, North America.
Yeah, lots from Canada and the U.S. for sure. And I know that there's a lot of stories. People are always telling you about their experiences, and you have some favorites, don't you?
I do. If I could just read a couple, if that's okay. This is from Angela from South Australia. She wrote to us and said, I already feel like I found a new home where I can do my own learning in a structured way. I applaud you and your colleagues for the work you do. I'm loving the material so far. And there's another one from someone named Lila in the Midwest United States.
Okay.
The Clinical Traumatologist program was my first experience with fully online training. Initially, I had my doubts as to whether online learning could offer as much as in-class learning, but soon discovered the advantages of this method. I appreciated being able to review the modules as often as I liked, as well as the convenience of working to my own schedule. I've deepened my knowledge of trauma counseling and know that what I've learned from this program will benefit my practice greatly.
Yeah, I know that some of the students give you feedback that they actually like going back to some of the material over time, and it helps them. They can review them.
Yes.
And I think that you've also got one particular favorite, I think, because we do a lot of work with National Defense, and I know that there have been some comments from our friends from National Defense, our students who have been working with the program as well.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about that one too?
Sure. So this is from one of the our trained clinicians who offer services for National Defense, and he was overseas, and he sent me an email on his last deployment, and he wrote, I wanted to send off a huge thank you. My experience was nothing short of exceptional, educational, and very experiential. I came away from the program a little wiser and filled with much gratitude for what I was able to integrate and put into practice. I am preparing for another tour in Afghanistan and will be reviewing your materials beforehand. Some of the best material out there for our purposes.
Wow, it's amazing to know that this material is really, not only is it being used all over the world, but it's making such a difference in so many lives, both for the clinicians and for the people that they provide services for.
Yes.
So, I just want to thank you, Maureen, for coming on, because
My pleasure.
you really make the back end shine, and that's the feedback that we always get too. It takes really a team to make something like this successful.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, and I hope that everybody out there takes the time and really considers taking the programs online. They really are making a difference, and we're happy to hear from all of you.